What time does this start?
In a couple of minutes.
Wait a minute. Enlightenment. Nobody show up.
All right, let's go ahead and begin today's open discussion. Welcome, everyone. Just giving a few more minutes for people to join us on YouTube. But let's open up with the prayer for spiritual workers, and then we'll move into our discussion. Doug, I'm going to go ahead and mute you until you're ready to ask a question or post a comment. That's all right.
Yeah. The big question for me is, how do we reach enlightenment?
Okay, let me open up with prayer for spiritual workers, and then we'll go right into your question. Prayer for spiritual workers. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their limitations, would smite me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their weakness, would not heed me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their ignorance, would defile you through me. And I ask, Almighty God, O wondrous power, that your strength may be given to me now, so that I might be fortified by this, so that I might go forward bravely into the world, and despite reception, send forth my love of thee throughout all races of man. Almighty God, give me the power and strength to rise above my karmic weakness and deficiencies in the pattern of my evolution, so that I might evolve and become stronger, aye, and even stronger in thy everlasting light. O God, thy will be done. All right, once again, welcome everyone to open discussion in various topics, class 91. You had a wonderful week. As per usual, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to either post them in the chat or to use the raise hand feature so that I can ask you to pose your question audibly. If you're joining us on Zoom or if you're joining us on YouTube, you can post the question in the chat and we will get those answered for you. So to start off, Doug, you had a question about how do we attain enlightenment? If you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, that is a big question to me. I'm non-denominational, so I follow a lot of different things. Okay. On God is good, type thing. But I would like to know, I've been working on that for so many years now. I've been meditating since I'm 5, and I want to know, how does one reach enlightenment?
Nima, are you able to hear us and connect?
Yeah.
Give us a minute. I'm waiting for Mr. Davis to see if he's able. It looks like he might be having some connection issues. We can see you, but we can't hear you. I think you're muted. You might.
Yeah, what was the
You hear
question?
me?
Okay. Doug, can you pose the question one more time?
How does one reach enlightenment?
Enlightenment. We went over this thousands of times, that there's a pathway to enlightenment, and the pathway is through a series of yoga, of spiritual yoga techniques. Meditation, well, what they call meditation, what most people call meditation is concentration. That's just one of the pathways. In the teachings of Patanjali and Tantra Satra yoga, they describe how to loom the yogas together in order to attain deep meditation, which is samadhi. And it may take lifetimes to do, but they give you 8 major steps towards doing this. And it's called the 8 limbs of yoga. Most people, or they don't they don't understand this, and they don't, and the majority of the time they don't get it right. But it's all about controlling your emotions, controlling your thoughts, your actions, your emotions, observing God in everything, learning how to be still and know that that within you is the power of God. Learning how to breathe in order to access the energy and power of God, and learning how to uh, divert your attention from the outside world into the inside world. And then learning how to take all your thoughts, all your actions, and place it down one main channel of knowledge, of mental altitude, and that's called concentration. When you channel your thoughts down in one direction, and from that will come contemplation, which your thoughts, when you channel your thoughts will become magnetic, and then you'll begin to see the things that's not there, that's not physically there. It's there, but it's not physically there. And then that leads you into the psychic and advanced psychic realms of existence, and then that leads you to true meditation. And meditation leads you into samadhi, into the upper levels of samadhi. And that's where you gain the great wisdom and knowledge and enlightenment. And that's, in simple terms, as Dr. George King said, is when you learn to predetermine all your actions in order to bring about the right result. That's a good definition for enlightenment. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And how do you find God?
God is everywhere.
Hmm.
God is you. God is in everything. And that's part of the 8 limbs of yoga, is to recognize that God is everywhere. It's not a he, it's not a she, it's every living thing. There's only one life in the universe, and that life is God.
Hmm. Good question. Me, that's a big question. Okay. I don't be facetious here. I've been practicing meditation since I'm 5 years old.
I've been doing the same thing, but
Yeah.
our definition of meditation is slightly different. The yogis say true meditation is when you can go into the silence and bring about a conscious death state. That's true meditation. When you can move all the energy in the body into any chakra system, any vortex center, and then cause the body to go into a conscious state of death. And now you have dissolved consciousness and merge yourself with the soul and the spirit, which the soul is the body of the spirit is the divine spark of God. And then your body is put into a hyper state where it won't die, but it is in a conscious death, because it has no power to move. It only has the power to maintain itself until you come back into the body. And that's true meditation. Now the Western world call everything meditation. You close your eyes and they call it meditation.
I have been gone a few times already in my life. And right now I'm disabled. And what I see is the more I see the other world, I see 2 worlds. I've been in too many things, right? 45 days in the hospital, okay. Pneumonia, they didn't think I'm 2 blood clots, the diabetic coma, now I have back thing and everything. So I'm getting up there, and I keep seeing the other world. I'm
Mhm.
like entering the other world.
Well, that's
Okay.
I mean, that's possible. A lot of people experience that.
Mm.
A lot of people go through that type of experience
Mm.
whereas they age or become enlightened, they begin to see this world and the astral world, this world and the etheric world.
Mm.
You know, or some of them even began to see the devic world, the world that's between the earth and the astral worlds. So it's a possibility of that, you know. So that's just a level of evolution that all of us will have to go through.
Mm. I'm still here though, with all these different things that I have going through, from diabetes to this one to that. It's hard for me to move around and everything. Um, but I see wherever it is I've gone through, you know, it's difficult situation being disabled. Okay, and I have a called Disabled Lives Matter, helping disabled people. So maybe that's why I'm there, in order to do something. You know, with I've been all my life, and you know, a doctor of philosophy and a Marine hero and all these other things. Okay, but it means nothing to God. And what most important is how I'm worshiping God. I was born Jewish, you know, so all these things are coming to me at this time. It's a lot, you know, to go through.
Yeah.
To realize I got one foot in here and one foot in the other dimension. So it looked like, you know, I'm 71. Okay, just 2 weeks ago, and I'm getting up there. And it's the inevitable will be that I won't be in this world. I will be in the other world.
Yeah. Well,
Sometimes.
take advantage of all the experience now, so you don't have to go through it again.
Right. That's what I'm working on.
That's the way I was taught. Yeah.
Mm.
So in your next life, that's something you won't have to go through.
So it's what is going to happen. It happens to all of us. We go from one world to the other.
Any other questions, Dwayne?
Be positive. That's the whole thing that I'm getting. Okay, I have a saying. I cried because I had no shoes, and then I met somebody with no feet, and I didn't cry anymore. So the idea is to realize, you know, what we have. Be grateful. Grateful. I guess gratefulness is something I'm learning. Being grateful for what I have left here.
Yeah.
And being positive in a lot of ways. So, but it's been my life. I guess I led a spiritual life in a lot of ways. And, you know, like you said, no, there is one God, and God is it in this life. We're should be happy to be here and go through it. But I've been too much health problems right now. So I'm just hoping. Been in a hospital 5 times in the last 2 months. So hoping I'll be able to get through it. You know, I guess it doesn't matter. I'm going to get through it or not. Okay, that's the thing. You know, we we'll go for it. But I want to hear what other people have to say. So let me see if the other people have questions.
And to all those who just joined us recently, welcome. As per usual, our format with the open discussions, you can pose your questions or comments in the chat, or use the raise hand feature to ask your questions audibly if you're joining us via Zoom. In the second half of today's open discussion, we will continue our review of the text, Ancient Language of the Soul. We'll look at chapter 7 today. We'll go over some highlights and we'll look at some bullet points. And we'll also take a look at a few diagrams that'll help to illustrate the information presented in the text. But even as we're going through that, feel free to ask any questions or pose any comments you have, and we'll be happy to address those for you. Next Friday, we will cover chapters 10 and possibly 11 in our study session. Chapter 9 was pretty long, and this past Friday, I scheduled for 9 and 10, but chapter 9 was pretty long, took practically the entire 2-hour block. So we pushed back chapter 10 to this Friday. I think we'll be able to get through chapters 10 and 11 next Friday, and then the following Friday, we'll review the final chapter, chapter 12. And we may also go into some of the bibliography and the footnotes to look at some of the additional references that Nehemiah recommends in further expanding on the information he presented in that book, Ancient Language of the Soul. So before we get to that review, are there any questions, any comments? As a reminder, you can go to our website, mysticknowledge.org, and under the link, New Book Sale, you can find information on the text that we're currently studying, Ancient Language of the Soul, Mystic Knowledge of Mantra, as well as at the bottom, you can find a link directly to the Amazon page where the book is being sold. And you can also send us an email to request an autographed copy by the author. Send that to you as well. And as we get closer to completing our first study text in the study sessions, I will announce the text that we'll move into after it. Nehemiah has been working on a prayer book, a book on prayer, and it is just about ready for publishing. So hopefully, if it is not the next text we go into, it will be a text that we go into in the study sessions. But as we get closer to it, maybe around chapter 11 or once we get chapter 12, I'll be able to let everyone know exactly what text we'll move into in the next series.
Oh boy.
You okay there, Doug?
Yeah. Lunch.
So if there are no questions or comments yet, I can go ahead and begin our review of chapter 7. Now, again, I'll be going back and forth between the Kindle version of the text, because that's where I made the highlights, and then occasionally interjecting some tables from the PDF version of the text, because they're illustrated or displayed better than in the Kindle version. And I'll also switch to some handouts, particularly when we get to sections describing the sabda, or the sound bodies, which, as you can see here, the very first highlight starts to get into that. So I'll hop into those diagrams to help illustrate the information that's presented. And as we move along, we'll stop and take, some more questions and comments and observations. So let me get it queued up. So chapter 7 is on the mystic knowledge of mantra. So there's a lot of information in this chapter, and throughout the entire book, but in this chapter, there's a lot of good information, and I didn't want to basically highlight every single passage in the chapter. So I tried to keep the highlighting to a minimal, but I'll still read in between passages because it helps really to explain the information and really to help us digest what's being presented. As usual, you can feel free to make your own highlights, to make your own notes. And if you have questions, feel free to post them in the chat, not only on the text, but on any material or metaphysical subject matter that you are curious about. So first, we'll say that thing that is not openly mentioned in a clear, understandable fashion is man's sabda bodies, or the nada bodies. These sound bodies are the powers that the spirit and the soul use to manifest, activate, and sustain all the other bodies. The spirit uses sound to call the soul into manifestation, and soul uses sound to manifest all its vehicles of expression and sustain them. Sound is the carrying agent of man's consciousness. God, or the Absolute, spoke the word, sound, and said, "Let there be many from the one." And the Spirit of God manifested itself as countless points of consciousness that embodied itself in the material of the soul consciousness. The material used to manifest the soul's consciousness was the essence of the spirit, which is known as the initial spoken word or unified and coherent sound vibrations. The soul uses perpetual sound vibration to modify the universal mind substance and cosmic energies to build the causal body, etheric bodies, mental bodies, subtle bodies, astral bodies, and the physical bodies. Right, so next it goes into description of the sabda bodies and the elements, including the bindus, chakras, the chakra bijas, chakra petals, nadi system, and kundalini. Now I used blue to highlight and say the entire section is important, but I didn't want to actually highlight the entire section. So let's move into specific key points. This first section is talking about the bindu. It is here where the Shakti power moves from an unmanifested state to a manifested subtle state and eventually a gross state. Nada and Bindu are two states of Shakti that when it's under the proper conditions, it produces this thing called creation. Nada is an inner flow of sound Shakti, the supreme conscious will that permeates the universe. The Bindu is the absence of sound. It is supreme silence, yet it is the potential of all sound and the source of all things. Now, I highlighted this because when some people are describing the Bindu, they'll mistakenly refer to it as all things and nothing or no things. And that's never how we were taught to describe the Bindu. It is, as Nehemiah has always described it, as the absence of sound, supreme silence, and the potential of all sound and source of all things. So calling it nothing or no thing is incorrect, because although it may help in a certain way us to understand the concept, a better understanding of it or description of it is as the potential of all sound. So it is not necessarily void or nothing, but it is both an absence and a potential of all sound. And I hope that better makes sense or clarifies that point. Also here, we get an example of what's being referred to the massive state of Shakti power, no better than our own sun. So a good example of this massive state of Shakti power is the sun of our own solar system. In fact, the Tantric doctrines describe a threefold Bindu force that we live, move, and have our being in as the sun, moon, and fire. In Sanskrit terms, Trigunat Mata. It's the sustaining force of all life. The Tantric doctrines state that the threefold Bindus are the sun, moon, and fire. Each one of these Shakti powers are the mighty forces that is modified into the etheric, subtle, and gross vehicles of expression that the soul uses. Physical science tells us that the sun in the form of sunlight supports all life on Earth via photosynthesis and drives the Earth's climate and weather. Its spectrum contains lines of ionized and neutral metals, as well as very weak hydrogen lines. This means that it generates its energy by nuclear fusion of hydrogen nuclei into helium and is in a state of hydrostatic equilibrium, neither contracting nor expanding over time. The Tantric teaching and the advanced metaphysical teachings view the sun as a mighty celestial being, the first threefold Bindu that traveled through countless incarnations to reach its godlike status of creating and sustaining trillions of life streams within this solar system and beyond. To get a better understanding of that paragraph there, you can read The 9 Freedoms by the Aether Society, or published by the Aether Society. You can also listen to the lectures on the 9 Freedoms. It's given by Dr. George King, particularly the 9th freedom, I believe it's solar existence. The sun, they see the sun, the Tantric teachings, they see the sun as the great vehicle of expression that God, the Absolute, uses to speak the creative word, which brings into manifestation life as we know it. It is believed that a creative mantra, the word, is repeated every 32 minutes by the sun, releasing a wave of tattvic matter that contains a stream of pranic energies. This tattvic matter creates huge waves of sonic solar plasma that acts as a carrying agent for the 5 major pranas. These solar sonic vibrations blanket the earth in a specific pattern. The ancient tantric doctrines tell us that 360 tantric rays are received from the sun, and that these rays may account for 360 degrees that we experience here on Earth's circumference. Now, there's 2 diagrams that I wanted to present here, but we reviewed them actually recently. First one is referring to that creative mantra is repeated every 32 minutes. If you guys remember a couple of open discussions ago, we read through a diagram going into great detail about the AUM. I won't read through the entire diagram again, but I will put it up briefly so we can take a look at that. There's also other diagrams where it illustrates that propagating action of the sun releasing those tantric rays, then those tantric rays being modified by the great Mahabindus of our solar system, the sun, as it relates to us directly, the sun, the earth, and the moon. All the planets within the solar system receive those tantric rays, modify them, and release them back out again. But as specifically to us, the 3 main groups that we look at, or entities we look at, is the sun, the earth, and the moon, and we'll go into more detail about that further on in the text. Now, in the Serpent Power book, written in 1919 by Sir Arthur Avalon, he describes these tattvic strings of matter as 360 tattvic rays that link itself with the etheric bodies of man through the chakra system. The tattvic rays are separated into 3 unequal groups, and each group has 2 unequal parts that is embedded in the 6 chakras along the spine. The 3 groups of tattvic rays are governed by the vibrational modes of motion brought about by Earth, Sun, and Moon. So if you remember last class, we looked at the diagram on the 4 states of sound. We're actually going to be going back and forth with that diagram throughout today's review. But those 3 unequal groups are on the right-hand side of the diagram. That same diagram, the Chandra, Surya, and Agni Kanda group. And then here you'll see those 360 tattvic rays are divided unequally amongst those 3 groups. And in other diagrams, it goes even further to show how they are allocated to the respective chakras along Sushumna, the major chakras along Sushumna, or as it's stated in the text, on the spinal column. Right? The bindu of each chakra has a magnetic pull on these tattvic rays, which it used to bring about subtle and gross manifestation. These strings of tattvic vibrational signatures assist in slowing down the cosmic energy, prana, within the chakras to allow various subtle and denser degrees of intelligent formulated patterns of astral and physical mass of manifested energies that the soul can use as tools of self-expression from life to life. The following table shows the number of tattvic rays embedded in the chakras, the names of the tattvic groups per chakras, and reflective qualities of the combined tattvic groups with the names of their conversion points. This is table 5. Again, I know I'm going pretty quick, but We've already reviewed this 2 Fridays ago. So if you want, you can go back and look at that study session and actually go through the entire text, or even better, you can read it for yourself. So table 5, the tattvic rays within the chakra system, lists the 7 centers, but the tattvas listed correspond to the first 6, from the base of the spine and to the Christ center, or the ajna, from the Muladhara chakra to the ajna chakra. With the Muladhara, it's tattvas bhuta, 56 rays, and the sex center, the Svadhisthana chakra, is bhuta as agni, and 62 rays, and together those make up the Rudra Granthi. In the Vishnu Granthi is the solar plexus and the heart center. Solar plexus with the apas, heart center vayu, and 52 and 54 tattvic rays respectively. And then finally at the Brahma Granthi, it's the throat center, which is akasa, 72 rays, and the Christ center, ajna chakra, which is tattva is manas and has 64 tattvic rays, and that's a total of 360. Sir Arthur Avalon also described the chakras describes chakras as massive tattvic shakti centers with the points of consciousness of I, the soul, which is the self-expression of the spirit, and the I am, the spirit, the divine spark of God, or the absolute. This is described as the bindu of the chakra, the point of all knowledge space, the door to the soul, and the link to the all in all, the spirit, the absolute, or God. Our moon is another Mahabindu force, a compactness of Shakti power that aids in creating and sustaining life. For our Earth, the moon is a great magnetic force that helps to balance the water levels that covers 70% of the Earth's surface. The moon is also used as a great reflector of the sunlight and the dark side of the Earth. As one half of the Earth moves away from the sun, it circles around the mighty sun, for the moon is the great illuminator of the night skies. On the subtle levels, the moon is that Mahabindu force that conditions the 360 tattvic rays and the cosmic energies radiating from the mighty sun. The tantric doctrines state that the moon represents the mental forces that permeate the earth and the etheric bodies of man. It's also believed to be a force that governs the fluid levels within the physical body. So next we look at the chakra system. We'll make sure there's any questions. The main components of the chakra system are a series of sound vibrations of different frequencies. These sound vibrations is said to originate from the sun in its efforts to involve parts of its consciousness in order to bring about a limited state of consciousness. The soul develops a series of vortex centers of concentrated sound frequencies that extends out, creating a network of sound consciousness that acts as a body matrix of complex sound divisions. These vortex centers are concentrated sound frequencies, and body matrix of sound has a magnetic pull and modification power over the universal mind substance and cosmic energies that it uses in order to express its consciousness through. That is the sabda body, sound body, that stands behind all living things. That is the consciousness of all living things. Within this sabda body, there are chakras, bindus, bijas, the chakra petals, the nadic system, and the kundalini. This is the core consciousness of any being here on our Mother Earth. So you might know you stated here that this is the core consciousness of any being here on our Mother Earth, but does this also apply to beings on other planets or on higher that exist and dwell on the higher realms?
What do you mean?
Like,
The
do they
core
also?
consciousness of the earth is all the realms of the earth. Remember, the
like,
earth consciousness expands throughout the solar system.
Right.
Mhm.
So, for example, would a Martian body also have a subject body that contains the chakras, bindus, bijas, and chakra petals, and their respective non-existent?
On the chakras above the crown center and above, yes.
Yeah.
They don't have to deal with the lower chakras.
Okay.
In other words, the avatars and the cosmic beings, they live in the crown chakras and above.
Mm-hmm.
We live in the chakras below the crown chakra. We live and exist within those chakras.
Right.
So, I mean, our cosmic consciousness is the earth cosmic consciousness. I think I told you all that.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. So.
There's a question here in the chat. I have been diagnosed with schizophrenia. Do you know if is it medication or meditation? So do you know if medication is effective for this illness? What could the cause be?
They saying medication or meditation?
Oh, Halima, are you asking for medication or are you asking for meditation? Could you clarify that?
Medication, yes.
Medication, okay.
Because that's what I'm being told. I have to, it's a must. It's what they told me. I have to take it, otherwise it could get worse. But it's also has side effect that I'm like feeling it already that comes with it. So I just want to like get the point of view of both the medication and the meditation.
I know several people that suffer with schizophrenia, and they take medication, and they seem to be just as normal as ever. So I wouldn't frown on medication. Medication is just an aid to help you control those symptoms. So I would study it and look at it carefully and talk to several people and try to talk to people who already is on the medication. You know, I do believe that schizophrenia has a lot to do with uncontrolled psychic centers being open too early. You know, so you know, yoga. I think yoga can help control that too by studying Raja Yoga, Bhatha Yoga, Kriya Yoga, and I think those things can help control that, along with medication until you can wean yourself off the medications. Because I know some people have did that as well.
Thank you.
So moving to the next highlight on the section of Chakra Bijas. The Sanskrit word bija means seed mantra. In each chakra, there is a seed mantra, a bija. The key word here is seed. This suggests a source from where something grows from. A seed mantra or sound of seed vibrations suggests two major things. That the seed mantra is an extension from a greater source, and that it, the seed mantra, has the power to extend itself. In the tantric doctrines, the chakra bijas is reported to be the sound made from the manifestation of the chakra itself. Therefore, this produced sound is the name and power signature of the chakra. Let's examine this further. The power of anything is within its name. In any language, the name of something tells us its origin, its history, its possible makeup, and its functioning ability or power. When a carpenter wishes to build a piece of furniture, he first creates a mental image of this furniture within his mind. After the carpenter has thought this through in great detail, he then places the specification of his design to paper. The carpenter then gathers the material and tools necessary to construct his design, and he builds the piece of furniture. Now, from all his mental and physical work, the carpenter names the piece of furniture a rocking chair. His naming of furniture gives definition to it, the function of it, and the purpose of it. Now, everyone who hears of this rocking chair automatically conceives of the functional use of this chair and will be driven to purchase it, for the name itself embodies the purpose. I didn't highlight this section, but I wanted to read it out because in here is technique or secret behind manifestation or materialization. I don't remember the exact name of the lecture, unfortunately, but there is a lecture where Dr. George King talks about the radiator apparatus that he designed in the mental realms. And he talks about how difficult it was to bring that design to the physical realm and the changes and substitutions he had to make, difficulties and challenges he faced in creating not only the SCR, spiritual energy radiator, sorry, but also other equipment that was used in other missions. So you can go back to your society, some of the newsletters, as well as, and do you remember which lecture that was named by? I can't recall the name of it.
It was a lecture on Operation Prayer Power.
Yeah.
It was called the New Yoga. It was a double cassette or double CD now lecture.
Mm-hmm.
He did in 1970, I think in the early 1970s.
Thank you. So you can go back and review that lecture and listen to it and keep with this in mind, and you'll get a better understanding on the actual process of manifestation and how, he goes in detail about how he was able to build it in the mental realms, look at it from many different angles, watch it operate, see how the energy moves from through, and it's an amazing lecture. So because we want to next highlight, while the tantric yoga claims that the sound bija, while the tantric yoga claims that the bija sounds within the chakras are the embodied power of that chakra, it holds the power and design specifications within its tones, notes, and pitch of the seed sound, bija. The bija is the embodied consciousness of the chakra. just as the rocking chair is the expressed idea consciousness of the carpenter in gross manifestation. The bija within the chakra is the expressed will of the soul in subtle manifestation, and it is the main purpose, and its main purpose is to involve itself in a denser energy pattern as embodied consciousness. And so just reading that right now, I was given a better understanding of how satellite number 3 operates. Don't ask me to explain because I probably can't. But if you go back, there's an illustration that I believe it's in the 9 freedoms, where in the illustration it shows how satellite number 3 and describes how satellite number 3 takes the energies from the sun, modifies it, and conditions it, and then through the various crystals and apparatuses, then sends it out to the earth during a magnetization period or a spiritual push, and then come back and look at these descriptions and explanations on how the chakra operates. And I think you'll get a lot out of that. Really cool. All right, so Doug, you have your hand raised. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, the big question. I do a lot of chakra stuff. I do meditation when I go to sleep. So I use the chakra. And I try to find out about healing the chakra. Okay, that's what I'm trying to get, how to use the chakra for healing purposes. Chakras are very good, different chakras.
The chakras function just fine. The thing that's not functioning fine is the nadis that run through the chakras. The nadis are the nadi itself means a flow of energy. The auric body that we exist in, where our consciousness really exists in, is actually polluted, and it takes this pollution and it pushes it through in and out of all the chakras. So the way to cleanse that, the way to cleanse the nadis is through certain energy manipulations. You could do it through, like you said earlier, positive thinking. You can do it through making sure you have a daily regimen of positive thinking and a daily regimen of breathing in clean energy and directing those energies in and out of the chakras. You could do it one by one, where you can use your hands to push the energy through the chakras. There's a book called You Too Can Heal by Dr. George King. He wrote the book, I think, in 1975 or 76. He actually advocated those type of techniques as far back as the 50s. Before him, the only ones I know that actually talked about it with clarity was Yoga Ramacharaka and some of the early Reiki yogi masters in the 1800s. But not too many people got it clear. There was a Japanese adept of healing that he did something called advanced pranic healing. He seemed to have got it right, but it's taking your hands and putting it over each chakra and pushing the energy through, bringing new energy in and pushing it through the chakras in order to push out the negative clogged energies within that. Pranayama does this too. By doing yoga breathing, it clears up the nadis. Also chanting mantra, japa, mantra japa, where you repeat the mantra over and over and over, it actually clears out the nadis as well. And because over time, we build up these samskaras, these negative samskaras, and they clog the pathway of the energies running through the chakras. So the chakras function just right. It's the massive megabytes of trash that clogs the pathways, that causes all type of illness, whether it's mental illness, whether it's physical illness, whether it's bad health. It can be a number of things, emotional problems, stress. It can be a number of things, and that's what shorten our lifespan on the physical plane and our lifespan on the astral plane, and have us to go through multiple incarnations, or what they call reincarnations.
And they have the Kundalini too, the Kundalini.
Well, the energy, the nadis come from it travels from the Muladhara chakra. The energy in the nadis is a small, tiny portion of the Kundalini that's not dormant, and that's the energy that runs through the nadis and go through each chakra, and it travels 200 some thousand pathways. Some people say it travels 700 through 700 pathways of the nadis. But that's the energy that needs to be cleaned up, and it takes lifetimes to clean it. You can subside the impurities, enough in one lifetime to gain some type of relief from it, but eventually you have to clear it all up.
Well, what happened to me is a car ran into me. It messed up my whole spine. Okay, I was not hit and run, but it was a car that ran into me, and didn't see a stop sign, and it messed up my whole neck and back, the whole spine. It's out of place. So I don't know how it's going to be put back in place unless I have surgery. I've tried everything now, and looks like the only way I'm going to have to do with surgery. And I'm a little nervous, but I talked to some yogi people who are masters and so on, and other people, and they said, don't worry about it, okay? The best thing you can do is concentrate on the positive, that everything's going to be okay. So, kind of thing. It's kind of hard. Well, I tell you this, it does relieve a lot of pain, because when I go to sleep at nighttime, when I use the binaural beats and the Igonic, and I use the chakra type of healings, okay, to put me to sleep, they work. They put me to sleep all right, and I don't feel any pain, okay? So I noticed the chakra meditation, or what do you want to call it, the music or the sounds of the chakra, or the 7 different chakras and so on. So that's a pretty powerful thing for me. When I sleep at nighttime, I feel I sleep like a baby, okay, with these different meditations, self-hypnosis, and all these different things. They seem to work. But when I get up in the daytime, that's when it's difficult, beginning in the morning. So it's tough to put something back in place. I know some yogis I know can do something like that. Okay, I haven't advanced to that level, but on a physical level, people telling me, the other yogis say, don't worry about it. You got to be positive. Think about, that it's going to get better when you get the surgery, so they can put it back in place. But I've seen some people with faith healers and other things, literally, my friend had an arm that was broken, okay, in 2 places, and he went to a healing, and however, the energy, like you're talking about energy here, he was able to have his arm worked, and the doctors couldn't do what they couldn't have. They were amazed, and I've seen so many people, heal. So I think it works too in yoga, right?
Huh?
The energy works in yoga too, right?
Yes.
So it's type of thing. And the Reiki I want to, and a lot of other energies. But the chakra one does help at nighttime when I go to sleep and I put that meditation on. It puts me out. Heal while you're sleeping. I guess there's like a lot to it. Yeah, I don't. Can you understand? Maybe you can tell me how. And when you're sleeping, well, it goes to the brain. But how? That's a good question to ask you. Healing when you're sleeping with the chakras or whatever that you're using seems to work. Can you explain how that works?
It's the sound. You use
Hmm.
music, right?
Yeah, I hear it. Whatever it is,
It's tones and music. That's
energy.
what. If you go back to the teachings, the yoga teachings,
Hmm.
the first the first the first Mahabhuta is Akasa,
Hmm.
and that's the secret for controlling the petals and the BJs of the chakras,
Hmm.
or of elements itself, because I think I told the class many years ago that if you want to lock energy into a crystal, you have to use a sound.
Hmm.
And even scientists, with their small experiments, they tuck sound, they throw sand on the table, and they
Hmm.
tuck sound and they manipulated the
Hmm.
sand with the sound. Why? Because sand is an element, and sound and all elements respond to sound.
Hmm.
And so the chakras is made up. The energy running through the chakras
Hmm.
is the energy that's behind all elements.
Hmm.
You can find all elements within the body.
Hmm.
So if we put if if we use sound
Hmm.
to heal our bodies,
Hmm.
if we use the right sound, the elements will respond to to that sound and heal
Hmm.
our bodies.
Hmm.
But we have to use the right sound. And sometimes with a lot of these healers, they might be comically matched for the person that they're healing. Not might, they are. The only
Hmm.
way they can heal that person is they radiate the proper sound and produce a particular comic signature of energy that
Hmm.
heals that person that comes before them. A lot of
Well, it
times when you
was.
have the miracle healing, a lot of times we have the miracle healing, that's what's happening.
Hmm.
So,
Tell me that the future of medicine is going to be in sound. Sound has
right,
a lot to
right.
do with the future of medicine,
Has a lot to do with it. Yes.
being able to heal people through sound. That's what
Right.
I think is going to happen. There's a lot of sound now and all these different things, modalities. Okay, I don't, and it seems to be working for a lot of people. So I think they're going to use sound in the future. The medicine will have to come to that conclusion.
All right.
Yeah, that's good. See what it got here with the heart chakras.
Okay, Dwayne, you have something else?
Chakras of the body.
There's a comment here. Can you stop with the EMM, please? On Q, I don't understand what you mean.
Energy, conscious, tantra, yoga. Hmm.
Oh, I think I understand what you mean.
Hmm.
Let's move on to the next highlight. It's a review of table 6. Before that, okay, the seed mantra bija within every chakra is the sound produced from the formation of that chakra. In physical science, we are told that each atom is made up of the same components, neutron, proton, and electron. The thing that makes atoms different from each other is their atomic electronic configuration, is the atom's electronic configuration. The neutron, neutral charged particles, and proton, positive charged particles of an atom is the nucleus of the atom, which is motionless, and it never moves, but stands in the exact center. The electrons, negative charged particles, spin around the nucleus, creating a valence level that breaks into the all-pervasive electronic magnetic spectrum, which tends to blend and shape these rays that define and determine the nature in which the atoms had assembled. In other words, the atom's ability and expressed character is determined from the angle and position the electron breaks into the electronic magnetic spectrum. And what I'm trying to say here is that the power and functioning of the chakra bijas is determined from the position of that, determined from the position that the chakra appears within the etheric structure. For example, let us examine the bijas that appear within the chakras along the spine. We're going to table 6 that actually goes into 6 major chakras and their bijas flow. The bijas and the flow of prana. So on the left-hand column 1, we first look at the listing of the psychic centers. Zoom out a little bit. So next to each chakra in column 2, we had the bija, or the seed mantra for each chakra. Then we have the petals, the number of petals for each chakra. Then the letters that are on the respective petals. And the modes of motions of qualities. And then finally, the devata and its flow of prana. So for example, the Muladhara at the base of the spine, its bija or seed method is LAM, containing 4 petals. And on those petals are the letters Va, Sa, Sa, and Sa. Its mode of motion qualities is Prithivi, smell. And its devata, or its flow of prana, is Brahma, or Hamsa. And you can see the rest of them in that table there.
Supposed to be seven chakras.
So could you repeat that, Doug? You were going in and out.
Supposed to be 7 chakras.
It's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be 7 chakras. You have 6 there. It's supposed to be 7.
There's actually 108 chakras. There's only 6 that actually relate to us at our evolutional stage.
Oh, okay.
So move back to the highlights. The seed mantra's bijas extends its sound vibrations onto the petals, creating the letters. Each bija and letters has a particular mode of motions that produce a specific quality of Shakti power and the flow of power. The devata of mantra represents the flow of prana, vaha, that flows strictly according to the karmic pressures being exerted upon it. The devata also represents the higher consciousness of man. When the bija, or a series of bijas, is formulated together into a mantra, and a devotee practitioner performs japa, repetition of mantra, diligently and repeatedly, the devata makes itself known. When mantra is repeated constantly with great concentration and devotion, the aura begins to spin. The spinning of this aura creates a screen of protection. Such is the power of mantra, as stated in earlier chapters. The word mantra means to think, man, and to protect and free, tra. The spinning of the aura is the devata, or the higher levels of consciousness of man, manifesting itself as a flow of power that frees man from his basic thought patterns and protecting him from a negative flow of energized thought waves. Okay. I think you mentioned before, Nehemiah, that you can use mantra to not only spin the aura, but to modify its shape into different predetermined ways as well.
Yeah, but that's with advanced
Yeah.
use of it.
So before I move on to the chakra petals, are there any other questions or comments? Anyone?
I find it interesting that the different chakras for different ones pertain to the different, like Om Mani Pa Om, or the different, type of sounds and so on that we can use to try to find out which does each chakra have its own, or is it a different one?
Yeah, each chakra has its own mantra. Go ahead, Dwayne.
Oh, and Doug, there's a law governing the use and distribution of mantras. You should not vocalize or give out a mantra in public unless that mantra lives within you.
Sorry.
Right, the chakra. The chakra petals. The first 5 chakra petals represents the form of bhutas from the base of the spine to the throat center. The Christ center and center between it and crown center are chakras of tattvas constituting the mental bodies. When these bits of sound vibrations are intoned through gross audible impressions, it incites the subtle lines of forces that carries the wave's consciousness throughout the etheric structure, creating the mental instruments that operate subtle bodies, astral bodies, and gross physical body. The seed mantra and chakra petals are embedded samskaras of the soul. They are the Shakti power signatures of the soul, speaking these things into motion. The tantric doctrines tell us that the original sound made by the soul to manifest this are the points of consciousness. Bijas and chakra petals move into a samskara state of being, where it becomes the mental impressions of the soul. When men intone these mantras or sound vibrations properly, it has a natural magnetic pull on these embedded Shakti power signatures within the chakra system. The practice of constant recitation of the mantra by man moves the embedded mantras embedded Shakti power signatures out of a state of samskara consciousness into a state of Shakti power. Right, so therein is a explanation of the power behind mantra. And if you have the mantra initiation tape or CD or MP3 file from the Dear Society, given by Dr. George King, you can take those mantras, examine each syllable, and look at the chart table 6. I'm going to go back to that really quickly. Look at the bijas and the petals and really study and examine how those mantras are put together and structured. And you can get a better idea of the meaning and the power behind those mantras. Actually, further in the text, I believe it's in chapter 9, and Nehemiah goes into a bit of a description or drops a hint at not only the meaning, but the energy behind some of those syllables. So if you take that and then go back and look at specifically the mantra that Dr. George King created and released and gave to us, practice it, and then use the information in this text and apply it to studying each syllable in turn, you'll see quite a bit, or you'll get a glimpse behind the genius in the way that not only the master constructed the mantras, also the thinking or the reasoning as to why he chose those specific mantras to give to us to practice not only for our own spiritual development, but in our services and the 12 blessings and prayer power and so forth. And then I also want to say that too, if you go back and look at the handout where Nehemiah breaks down the AUM and particularly the 3 OMs, you'll get a really good idea as to the power behind soul mantra, and especially what makes dynamic mantra so powerful and potent in our, not only in our japa practice, but in our services and in its use. So there's a lot here, and it's not just intellectual theory. Right? What Nehemiah taught us that knowledge plus practice or experience equals wisdom. And it is through wisdom that we can predetermine all our actions. Predetermining all our actions is enlightenment. So when you take this knowledge and combine it with the mantras and the practices given to us by Dr. George King and through the Dear Society and through the masters and other like Yogi Chakra and so forth, it develops your wisdom, and it molds and shapes the aura to allow you to further develop and be of greater and greater service. It all comes together. Nothing is wasted. All of this comes together as a complete system of spiritual development. And I hope that's, one of the things all of you are getting from this is that studying this is just not an academic exercise. It is meant for you to take back into your practice, to enhance your practice, and to be of greater and greater service to the world as a whole.
Okay, what about if you have an anger problem?
If you have an anger
What
problem,
about if you have, yeah. How do you deal with that? I'd like to know, because that's important.
You
I
go,
have an anger.
you go back to the 8 limbs of yoga that I was talking about earlier. I think I did a lecture tape. If you go on the on our video library, you'll see that I did something on the 8 limbs of yoga, and it teaches you how to deal with those things. Because if you practice meditation and yoga, you shouldn't have an anger problem.
Problem. I do have an anger problem. I'm not going to say I don't have an
Yeah,
anger problem.
well, you know,
It's got me in a lot of trouble in the past.
yeah. So you
I haven't
know,
had in a while, except with my wife,
yeah. So
getting angry at her.
so you should, you know, you should be able to control that through Raja Yoga. Through Raja and Bhatha Yoga, you should be able to control that.
When I was about 30, before, I guess, I was able to do one-handed handstands, and half the yoga was really good at it. But I can't do half, 90% stuff that I could do when I was younger.
Yeah, but Hatha
Is there a reason for that?
Hatha Yoga is basic. Is a basic type yoga. Is to prepare you and to help build your breathing and concentration. But it's a very basic style of yoga. The real yoga,
So what are the
the
major?
real yoga is Nani Yoga, Kama Yoga, Raja Yoga, and Bhatha Yoga.
Mm.
Those are the things that
Mm.
that prepare you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in order to take on the world. Hatha Yoga is to prepare the body for Raja, Kriya, Tantra, and Kundalini Yoga. But a lot of people, they bring Hatha Yoga to the front and they exploit Hatha Yoga and don't really know the science behind Hatha Yoga.
So the major yogas, we just mentioned, the bhakti and devotional and work of yoga. What is it? There's 7. How many different types of yoga are there?
There's
Must
many
be a
types
lot
of
of them,
yoga,
huh?
but the main yogas are 12 yogas, and those 12 yogas lead you to enlightenment. And but they have to be synchronized in the proper order. We have a lecture tape. If you email me, I'll send you
Okay.
some literature
Right.
and point you to the lecture tapes that goes into it. It goes
Okay.
into great detail of it. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll do that.
so I wanted to, and will, if you remember this diagram, negative and positive samskaras of the auric body. I think we really reviewed this earlier this year. This is called the karmic framework of creation. Actually, I think we reviewed this in 2020. So earlier I read reciting, when the devotee recites the mantra, the japa, it spins the aura. And the Mayas taught us that it is in that spinning of the aura, it creates a centrifugal effect where the negative, heavier samskaras are pushed to the outer layers of the aura, are pushed down into the outer layers of the aura and burnt up. And with the burning up and releasing of those negative samskaras, the aura is made clearer and clearer, and the building up of the positive samskaras occurs as well. And so let's look at some of those negative samskaras that cloud and contaminate the auric bodies and limit sensory perception and spiritual development. For example, there's attachment, anger, malice, greed, jealousy, envy, pride, desire, passion, lust, delusion, and all other impurities. It is these impurity traits that clog the nadis and inhibit the free flow of energies within the aura and the chakras. The chakras themselves are not blocked. It is the functioning of the chakras within our auric structure as inhibited by these negative samskaras. Now, the positive samskaras on the other side, these clear the auric fields and enhance sensory perception and spiritual development. And some of those positive samskaras are detachment, unselfish love, kindness, devotion, prayer, mantra, yoga, mudra, positivization, unconditional sacrifice, acts that kill desire, acts that kill passion, acts that kill lust, service without expectation of reward. So as you can see in the illustration, the two different auras, the ones on the left has several ripples or waves or distortions within it, containing all those negative samskaras. But it is through the practice of not only mantra japa, but prayer, giving of healing, rendering of service, Nani yoga, the studying and applying of these spiritual teachings to one's life to improve mental development, Raja yoga. You move more and more to that illustration on the right-hand side, which clears up the aura and allows for a clear and pure flow of energies, both from in and out of the psychic vortex centers, the chakras, and throughout the nadis as well. I see there's a couple of comments here. Okay. Halima, I'm going to send you the email, our email address. If you can send us an email and we can get that information to you directly.
Thank you.
Remember how to spell it correctly. So Doug, do you have a question?
No, it's very good. I have to thank you for having this because I'm learning a lot today that I didn't know.
Thank you for attending. This is why we're here.
And the big question on all of these things is to put it into practice, because if you don't practice it, it's like you can know something and not, not be practicing it or following it. Okay. And so you can know it intellectually, but not do it. So, so that the idea is to get involved in doing these things in the practice, putting them into practice.
Yeah, that's what we're about. We're not, let me choose my words, about just coming in every Sunday and having a leisure study of the teachings. All the effort and energy that Nehemiah exerted in putting these diagrams information together, because this diagram isn't copy and pasted. Every element here Nehemiah did by hand. He drew these illustrations by hand. He wrote this out by hand. And there's thousands of pages of diagrams and books and information given out. And he didn't release it so that we can just collect it and have some nice conversation points at dinner or with our friends, but it's so that we can practice it, apply it. That's the whole point behind the International Mystic Knowledge Center. He designed his teaching modality around the mystic constitution of man, so that with that knowledge, you can take control of your own spiritual development, of your own evolution, and move even higher and higher and higher, life after life after life. So we don't want you to just study this information, to just read it and to just look at the pictures and be oohed and awed by, the colors and the way that the information is laid out, but actually practice it, apply it. I'm reminded of the japa handouts that he created, which actually gives you sound advice and techniques to take into, even some mudras, to take into your practice, use them, test them to see if they work or not, and then come back and we can discuss. Okay, you say, okay, I felt this, I experienced this. What does this mean? What does that mean? You know, that's really the point behind the IMKC. It is a place where we can all come together, learn, apply, grow, and then serve.
Mm.
And then you take it even further with, like, for example, the Aetheric Society, if you choose to remember that, they too have many, many, many ways that you can serve, that you can grow in knowledge and wisdom, and really steer your own ship towards the shores of spiritual advancement and enlightenment.
Mm.
So that's the point of all this, is to practice, to apply.
I see that more people are getting involved, which is good to see on a positive level. I see more people meditating these days than, ever before. I see a lot of very positive things out there, I'm just hoping, we need to keep it going in that direction. Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
You young people have got to get to more in order to get an enlightened society going. We need to really work on a lot of these issues. Okay, I mean, I'm already older. Okay, so I'm going out of here. But I hope the young people are going to be able to get into meditation and all these different things, because it's going to need to do that for the next generation with all the problems that we're leaving. Kind of thing. So I think a positive spiritual thing is going to be a big thing in the future. How do you feel about that? That's the question.
It
How do you
will
feel
be.
about where
It
we're
will
going?
be. It will be.
If not, then there's a lot of problems going to be, So you have learn, and do things to make these things happen. Thank you for having this. I'm learning a lot.
All right.
All right, so as we're coming up on the hour and 45-minute mark, I do want to get through chapter 7 today.
Okay.
So I'm going to move a bit quicker.
Okay, I'll keep quiet.
So the nadi system, the word nadi comes from the word nad, which means to move, and movement comes about from sound. In the theosophical circles, it's called the etheric body or auric body. This nadic portion of man's existence, which is the auric body embedded within and around portions of the etheric body, that is and make up the sound sabda body that is never discarded life after life. It is the vehicle that the soul uses, the sacred sonic vibrations from the chakras through the nadis, to build the mental, subtle, and gross bodies. This etheric body, etheric sound body, holds the embodied consciousness jiva of man as it muscles its way through the etheric, subtle, astral, and gross physical existence, one reincarnation after another. There are 3 types of nadis and 11 named nadis. The types of nadis are described as follows: positive charged nadis, which are called Pingala nadis, and is located on the right side of the body. Then you have the negative charged nadis, called the Ida nadis, and is located on the left side of the body. The third nadi type is called the Sushumna nadi, which is located along the spinal column. Within this nadic system, these nadis branch out from the chakra petals, creating thousands of branches numbering 72,000 up to and above 230,000 nadis. The nadis are sonic tube-like lines of force that carry the Shakti power of various qualities and mental energy configurations throughout the nadi system, which helps to slow down the pranic forces in order to bring about embodied consciousness for the soul. the nadis travel from the Muladhara chakra, moving upwards and towards the Aja chakra, where it terminates. Right. So for those of you fellow members of the society, I hope I don't get in trouble. I wanted you to focus on this chapter, but also other chapters. We look at the structure and operation of the chakras, the chakra system, the petals, the bijas, and the nadis, because if you take that and look at the SCR, special energy radiator, I think, and really concentrate, and if you can contemplate on it, I think a lot will be revealed. I don't get in trouble, so I won't go any more than that. On the left side of the Muladhara chakra, you have the Ida nadis branching off and moving upward and intersecting with the next 5 chakras, briefly crossing over to the right side and moving back to the left side. This movement creates a configuration of the energy flow that brings forward the qualities of mental lunar energy patterns that possess a feminine energy quality. This energy flow is said to be lunar energy quality, representing a subtle mental flow within all the bodies. On the right side of the Muladhara chakra, you have Pingala nadis branching off, moving upward, and intersecting with the next 5 chakras, briefly crossing over to the left side and moving back to the right side. This massive flow of power within the etheric structures also creates a configuration of the energy flow that brings forward the qualities of vital solar energy patterns that possesses a masculine energy quality. This energy flow is said to be solar energy quality, representing a subtle vital life flow within all the bodies. All right, so think about that the collection, the movement of energy, the compaction, the conditioning, and the transmission of the energies. Right, all of that and more is happening with the SCR. Kundalini. Kundalini is the primary life force of the human body. It's the great cosmic energy given to the soul, the life streams of this earth, through the logos of this earth, to gain the necessary experience needed in this classroom called the planet Earth. Okay. Now, the greatest portion of this power of Kundalini within the human body lies dormant and untapped at the base of the spine column. Kundalini is that Shakti power that has moved from the great perfect equilibrium state of Shiva and Shakti to initiate the process of involution. The process of involution can be described as the manifestation of the soul and its tools of expression, such as the Nadi system, the Nadi knots or the chakra system, the supra-conscious mind, the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, the pranic system, cosmic energies within and surrounding the bodies, the subtler bodies, and the physical body. With this, Shakti finishes the creation of all the above tools of expression for the soul. It rests at the base of the spine by revealing the great Shiva power within itself and then coiling itself around this Shiva 3.5 times. This Shakti is called Kundalini at this stage. Okay, I have quite a bit more. So I guess we should stop here. You mind?
Yeah, you're not gonna get through that today.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get to that. All right, so
The Kundalini is very good. I know the Kundalini yoga. I mean, I could know a little bit about it.
yeah, so we'll pick back up with Kundalini next time. I don't want to rush this information. I know I was trying to get through it, but I don't want to rush it because there's a lot of good stuff in here, and then I have additional diagrams that I wanted to show to go along with this information. So we'll save that for next open discussion.
I have one last question.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you for taking my questions and everything. I hope I didn't make a disturbance or anything. Okay. Where do you see Jesus in this whole thing?
Jesus was
In the picture.
Jesus was a yogi too. Jesus was a cosmic being, or what in ancient times in the Sanskrit terminology they call him a bodhisattva, one that came from the etheric, from the spiritual etheric realms of the cosmos. So Jesus, in fact, when you go and study the life of Jesus, you'll see that he visited the Tall Cross Monastery over in Tibet, and he stayed there for a while. Remember, a good portion of his life was not recorded in the Middle East. It was he, from age 12 to 30, he was traveling and being taught and developing himself. I did a lecture. I have a lecture online that goes into that, and we did a good PowerPoint with it. If you go online, you'll see where we spend at least an hour or two going into the teachings of Jesus.
Great. If you could send it on my email, I got the email. That would be great.
Yeah.
I gave you my email. I appreciate it.
When you have his email?
Yeah, I gave you the email there.
Yeah, he posted it in the chat, and
Thank you. And thank you for having this too. You know, this is great. Really was. It was really was nice. The Kundalini be a nice one. And if you let me know earlier, you know, then I won't fit it next, you know, type. So
All right.
so are there any final questions or comments before we close out today's session?
Yeah. I accidentally emailed that guy. I'm sorry. Ignore my email, but I got the correct email.
Okay, I saw. I did see it come in, so yes, that is the correct email address.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I accidentally emailed it to you. Sorry.
All right.
So, and the only thing I would say is, see, when I've had my surgery or whatever type of thing. So on a medical scale, how does a yogi look at, you know, the medical model in terms of, like, you know, I'm going to be having surgery or so. I'm trying to find out, you know, if, I guess, you know, to see what you folks also stand for in the medical model, or how you stand for a medical model.
Yeah, I mean, everything is all science is a discovery of God's creation. So even the medical science is still, there's nothing wrong with medical science. You know, so if it helps you, then you need to do it. You know, there are Ayurvedic techniques, but whatever technique, whether it's the medical, the Western medical technique or the Eastern medical technique, whatever helps you, you should use it to extend your life, because it's all about extending your life. All right, Duane, let's go ahead and close out.
So let's close out with reciting, recite the New Lord's Prayer. New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up, and in doing so, receive through their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength, so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. Oh, great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Grant it energy to sing on forever and forever. All right, thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance, your questions, and your participation. Don't forget, this next Friday, we'll read chapters 10 and possibly 11 of the Ancient Language of the Soul in our study session. And then we'll come back again on Sunday and participate in another open discussion. Thank you very much and have a wonderful week.
Thank you.